Hello, I'm Dan, the EDC academic, and this is the Olight Baton 4. It is the flashlight that I've been carrying around in this pouch for the last year and a half. And today I'm going to be talking to you about all the reasons why I'm changing to this flashlight. This is the Wuben X4. It cost about half as much as the Olight Baton 4. And in this video, I'm going to be talking to you about all the features that this flashlight has that led to me replacing a flashlight that cost twice as much. So if that sounds interesting to you, stick around and I will be back in a moment. Hello, and thank you for sticking with me. Today I'm going to be talking about this flashlight here. This is the Wuben X4, and you can see the product information there on the box. It lists at 1500 max lumens, and it lists at 205 beam distance, which is the throw of the flashlight essentially. And before I get to talking about this and my full review of it, I'm going to be talking about what it's replacing. And as I showed you in the intro portion of this video, the light that it's replacing is the Olight Baton. So let me open up my pouch here. This is my larger pouch. I have several size pouches. I have a small one, a medium one, and the large one. This is the large pouch. This is the pouch that goes inside of my work bag that I take with me whenever I go to work. And a lot of people like to carry flashlights with them as part of their EDC, just in their pocket, small little flashlights such as this one, which I do on occasion. Has a nice little magnet there, a little three-stage button, low, medium, high. It's got the little clip on it. And this is something that as I'm leaving the house to walk the dog, I will sort of, grab this, throw it in my coat pocket. But a flashlight is not normally part of my actual EDC gear. It'll be in an EDC pouch that I have with me, but it's not part of the EDC that's actually on my person. And for the last year and a half, this flashlight right here has been my EDC flashlight of choice. And again, when I say EDC in this context, I'm talking about the EDC, my pouch EDC, not on my on-body EDC. So let me close up this pouch. Maybe I'll do an entirely separate video in the future in which I talk about the pouch itself. But for now, I'm going to push that to the side and talk about this light. I purchased this light a year and a half ago. It was July, I think, of 2024. Whenever I purchased this as part of Amazon Prime sales, it had been listing at like $95. I got it around 80 bucks. And it had some features to it that I really liked. They were appealing to me at first. But after a year and a half of use, I've come to realize that a lot of those things that I initially regarded as features were actually just sort of gimmicks, and I didn't really gain an advantage from them. So let me work through this with you, or talk through this rather with you, and explain what led me to the decision to move away from this light and to the Wuben light, the X4. So this is the Olight Baton. You can buy the Olight Baton 4 specifically. There are earlier versions of the Baton that did not have this external carry. The reason why I like this external carry was because you could use this not only to recharge the flashlight itself, but you could use it to recharge your phone through that little port right there. And externally, I don't know how well that's going to be coming up on camera, it has the little indicator telling you what percentage of the battery you have left. And another thing that I initially liked was that while it was inside the case, while it was charging, you could press that button and it would toggle the light on and off. And you could either close it by putting the button, or you could just close it by or you could either turn it off by closing the lid, or you could close it by turning the button, clicking the button back on. And this external battery charger was listed at 5,000 milliamps, and in theory that should have given my phone about 3/4 to a charge, almost a full charge. In practice, it never lived up to that. In practice, it would only ever give me up to about 20–25% on my phone using this 5,000 milliamp external battery to charge it. So I was disappointed in that regard. And also the other thing that I initially thought was a feature, this idea of you could, have it, just be able to flip it open and then turn it on and then turn it back off. It was just, it's just a gimmick. It sort of seems like a feature at first because, hey, this is neat. You can charge it up and use it at the same time. But it takes so little time to actually charge it up, and why would you want to carry all this additional bulk and have this big old floppy lid that's extended out in front of you while you're attempting to use the flashlight? And so I never actually used this little push button, use in while you're charging it functionality. So it ended up just being larger, bigger, heavier than I actually needed in my pouch. And it just sort of, defeated the purpose of why would you spend, $80–95 for something like this whenever the actual working part of it was all that you would ever use. And so I'm going to move this out of the way and talk about the flashlight now. It has the little magnet on the back. I think that's a magnet on the back. Let me get my little big old piece of metal out there. Yeah, so it's got the magnet on the back. It's got the dual direction pocket clip on it. It's got click on, click off, and you can adjust it by pressing down on it, and it'll step up, and then it'll step back down. So it's got those three modes. Oops, accidentally turned it all the way off. So it's got the high mode, low mode, medium mode, and then back to high. And then it'll just remember what mode it was on whenever you click it back on. So there it's got small, it's got low, medium, and high functionality. And it's got the pocket clip there, which is reversible. And this was, once you take out the novelty of the external case, this just becomes your standard little pocket size flashlight, something that you can purchase, I purchased this, I think, for like $10–12. And the only real difference between this and this one is that this only has a unidirectional pocket clip, whereas this pocket clip is bidirectional. But given that this cost $80 all in, including the case, which I never got that much use out of, and the external charger never lived up to its promise, why would you pay $80–95 for that whenever you can get something like this for, $12–13? And so now, with that out of the way, let me get to the flashlight in question, the flashlight that I'm going to be replacing my Olight baton for. As I already said, this is the Wuben X4. And I will say up front that I did not pay for this myself. Wuben reached out to me and offered to send this product to me with the agreement that I would do a video review of it. So I didn't pay for this. This didn't come out of my own money, but I didn't pay for this with my own money. This was sent to me for free by Wuben. But the review is on my own. They sent this to me without any contingencies of what I needed to say about it. But that being said, this is something that I did pay money out of my own pocket for, $80 a year and a half ago, and I'm going to be replacing this. I'm going to be putting this, and I'm going to be using this. This knife, I'm sorry, I'm so used to talking about knives on this channel. This flashlight retails for right at like $39 now. I think it's retailing for $38.99. Let me bring up my notes here. Yes, it's listing at $38.99, both on Wuben's site directly and on Amazon. Now, this lacks the external battery charging capacity that the Olight has. But as I already indicated a couple of times, that recharging capacity never lived up to its promise, and this has so many other features that make it such a better choice for me in what I'm looking for in my EDC flashlight. So let me I already have the flashlight. I've been testing it for the last several days. I already have it out of the box. I'm going to set that aside for right now and just talk about the packaging that it comes in. So this is how it came to me. It was inside of a bag, and the shipping bag, and then once you open up the shipping bag, it was this container. And I'm going to use my old Camillus electrician's knife to open it here. Very nice packaging, very sturdy packaging. Put that off to the side. So it's got this nice little hard-sided cardboard box there. And once you lift that up, you have your product manual with warranty information. And put that off to the side. The flashlight came inside of this little plastic bag that was embedded in this plastic portion of the box, and it had this little plastic bumper here that was preventing the flashlight, excuse me, the battery of the flashlight from being accidentally activated during shipping. So whenever I got it, the first thing I had to do was open this up, remove that little plastic tab, and then pop that back in, and then just lock that back in place. And now I'm going to be beginning the review portion of this flashlight, and I'm going to be breaking that down into 3 different components. I'm going to be talking about the EDC aspects of this light. And then I'm going to be talking about the camping/outdoors functionality of this light. And then I'm going to be talking about the tactical and emergency functionality of this light. And in comparison to what it's replacing, this is for EDC purposes only. This really doesn't have any camping function, it doesn't have any outdoor functionings, and it doesn't have any tactical or emergency functionality. So that's one of the things that I like about this flashlight, the one that I'm replacing my Baton 4 with. Whenever the knife, knife again, I did that again. I'm so used to talking about knives. Whenever the flashlight arrived to me, it was in the locked position. And in the locked position, it obviously locks out the functionality. So it has this little, the tail activated switch, and it has the main power button. Neither one of those will function whenever it's in the locked mode. The first types of functionality I'm going to be talking about are the EDC functionality. So it's got these 3 settings on the switch there. I'll bring that up. So right now you can see that it's in the lock mode. One step up from that, it's got the side light mode. One step up from that, it's got the front light mode. And then all the way at the top, it's got the moonlight mode. I'm going to flip it all the way forward and talk about the moonlight mode first. For the moonlight mode, once you flip it all the way forward there, you can activate that by clicking the tail light. And whenever it's in moonlight mode, the tail activated switch is just a click on, click off. Click on, click off. And it does the same thing with the button there. So it doesn't matter which button you're using, the main button or the tail button, it just does click on, click off. So it's a really simple interface for the user. And as long as it's in that moonlight setting, you're getting the lowest amount of lumens. Well, I mean, not the lowest amount of lumens possible, but the lowest lumen setting for this particular flashlight. And I can't remember what that is, but I'm assuming that you're familiar with what the moonlight setting on flashlights are. It's just to provide a little bit of light if you're in a camping situation, outdoor situation, and you don't want to unnecessarily drain the battery whenever just a little light will do. So that is the moonlight setting. And this little guy here, the Baton, it did have the low setting, which was effectively a moonlight setting. So this had that same sort of functionality. But what this has that the Baton didn't have is this ability to scroll down to the front light and have infinitely adjustable brightness. So now I just moved that little indexing switch down one. So it's pointing to the icon that says forward light. And from there, I can press the button and it turns it on. And then I can, once it's turned on, with this little dial that's on the switch, I'll point to that dial right there, I can roll it backward. And notice that it just flashed there because the dial itself will just keep on turning and turning and turning. And so it doesn't have a stopping point. And so to let you know that you've reached max brightness, it'll flash. And now I just go in the opposite direction, and you'll see that it will, once I get down to the moonlight setting, which is the lowest setting, it did a little flash there, just to let you know that, even if I were to continue to try to spin it down, it's not going to go down anymore in terms of brightness. And so the Olight baton, it had 3 settings: low, medium, and high brightness. This light has an infinitely, progressing from low to high. It doesn't have those defined settings, and so you can determine your own brightness without having to rely upon those settings through the use of that little dial there. And while it is in that mode, the front light mode, now the tail button it functions differently than it does in moonlight mode. In moonlight mode, it's click on, click off, click on, click off. Whenever it's in front light mode, you have to hold the button down to use it, which I really like. So again, you can just sort of grab it in this direction, press the button, and you get the light. And again, if you wanted to adjust the functionality of that, adjust the brightness of it, you can do that through the main switch. But whenever you're using the tail switch, it always comes on at full brightness. And those are the primary ways that you would be using this flashlight in an EDC scenario. Either the moonlight functionality with that lowest setting, or with the ability to have the increased amount of light in that full throw. Now I'm going to be talking about some of the camping and outdoors functionality of this flashlight. And all the features I'm getting ready to talk about, none of them are available on the Olight Baton 4, which I am replacing. So I'm going to scroll this down one more to the side light functionality. And once it's on the side light functionality, then you just press the on button. Now, in this case, it turns on at where I had last used it, the setting which I had last used it. And the setting I had last used it was this morning whenever I was on a walk with my dog, and I had it on the RGB setting. I'm going to get it off the RGB setting by pressing and holding the main button. Now it's on the LED, the white LED setting of it. And once it's there, now I can turn that same dial, and I get the full bright setting, and that same dial going in the opposite direction will bring it down in tone. And once again, it'll flash, it'll blink to let you know that you're on the lowest setting if you're decreasing it, and it will blink whenever you've reached the highest setting as you're on that scroll. I really like the side light setting for this for a camping or an outdoor application. And once again, let me put that up to the side here. Let me grab a hunk of metal. This has, like the Olight does, that has a magnet on the tail, and it is a sturdy magnet. This is a little bit heavier than the Olight because it's so much larger in size than the Olight, but it has a respectively more powerful magnet to hold it up. So in a camping situation, in an outdoor situation, you could string this from your tent, from the cables that are from the poles that are holding your tent in place. You could dangle it from a lanyard that would attach to the clip. And oh, I forgot to mention the lanyard earlier when I was talking about the packaging. Inside of the packaging, it of course comes with a charging cable, and it comes with this lanyard. The lanyard you could attach, basically the only place to attach the lanyard is to the pocket clip. And the way that I was using the lanyard was to thread it through, hard to do this on camera here. Try my right hand. There we go. The way that I was testing this was putting the lanyard toward the top of it. Putting the lanyard toward the top of it there. And if you had this on that side light function, Let me turn that down here so it's not, oh, wrong way. There we go. So when you have it on the side light function, you could just hang this from a peg, from a lantern hook. You could hang it on the inside of your tent, or you could use the magnetized portion of that, attach it to something metal, so that you could that you could have hands-free light situation. And because it has that pocket clip, if you're walking around with a backpack that has that little connecting strap that connects your shoulder straps together, you could hook that on there, and so then you could essentially have a headlight going forward while you're walking, while you're camping. And it just has the standard, anything that you would use a lantern for in a camping outdoor situation, you could use that. And as you've already seen, in addition to the white lights there, you also have access to the RGB. And so to flip it, to toggle it back to the RGB function, I'm once again just going to press this main button down, and now it switches over to red. But red is not the only color. Once it's in RGB mode, you can turn this dial and you can change the color of it. So it'll go red, purple, blue, green, amber, and then back to red. And it will remember where you left off at. So let me go to blue. And now I'll turn that off. And now I'll go back and turning it on. And while it is in that mode, it deactivates this toggle switch, that tail switch, excuse me. And I really like that, because if you were ever in a situation where you're in a red light setting only, and the reason you'd want red light setting only is if you're trying to preserve your night vision. If you're, wanting to, if you're keeping light to a minimum, and yet you still wanted to look at something, you could turn on the red light function and then use it to provide just the bare minimal amount of illumination to see what you're attempting to see, without having to worry about accidentally hitting that tail switch and ruining your night vision that you've been so carefully trying to preserve. But in addition to this, and the appeal of this, you could use this as a beacon. You could strap this onto your fanny pack if you were riding your bicycle and you wanted to use this as a tail light. You can use this as a beacon situation if you were hiking at nighttime and there's people behind you, and again you just wanted to attach that to your backpack. If you wanted to set this up as a beacon for your tent, for your campsite. If there were other people that were out and wanted to find their way back to the campsite, you could just set this up and let it go so that people could find you more easily. But in addition to that, once it's there, once you're in the RGB mode, if you wanted to activate an emergency beacon, you can do that by double pressing the main switch. And then it goes to that emergency beacon. And you can even change the color of the emergency beacon. So there you can see it's going between red and blue. If I double click it in that mode, now it's going red and green. And I can double click it again. And now it's going to, actually I don't think that double clicked. Okay, yeah, it did. So it goes to red and blue. Oops, I accidentally turned that off. My left thumb isn't as agile as my right finger, so I'm going to do this with using, oops. Once I turned that off, now the tail switch is activated. So now I'm going to activate the emergency beacon again. I'm just going to double click the main switch. So there we have red and blue. Double click it again. There we have red and green. Double click it again. Red and amber. Double click it again, and I'm back to red and blue. And then just hit it once, and now it is back to the off position. The off position on the side light, and now you can just turn it on using the main light there, and the green light will click on. And whenever it's in side light mode, but you activate the tail light, the tail switch, it brings on the full force front beam. So that's always available to you whenever you're in the side setting or whether you're in the front setting. The tail light operates the same. The only time the tail light won't operate is if you're in the side light mode using either the RGB or, let me switch this back over to the white. So if it's in lantern mode, again, it won't operate through the tail switch. And if you're in RGB mode, the tail switch does not operate. But if you turn it off, leave it in side light mode, then you can activate that tail. Then you can use the tail switch to activate that front light. So I've worked through the EDC capability, I've worked through the camp capability, and some of the emergency tactability. Now I'll talk about some of the tactical capacity to it. The tactical capacity is that this has a strobe function. So I'm going to give a strobe warning here if anybody is photosensitive like that. If you're carrying it like this and you want to use that thumb switch, now here's the strobe warning. If you double click it, if you click this really quickly, now you have that super bright strobe function, and I'll click it off now. Well, I would have only had to have double clicked it. So only had to single click it to get it out of that strobe mode. So let me do that again. I'm going to double click it. There we have the strobe, and then you can get out of there just by single clicking. And it will do that. It will have that strobe mode, whether it's in side light mode or whether it is in forward mode. So now I just move that little detent switch to the forward mode, and the strobe warning again, double click, you have that bright strobe. One click to turn it off, strobe warning again, double click, strobe mode, and then I can click that off. Now it will not do that if you are in moonlight mode. So if it's all the way forward, if you're in moonlight mode, you can press that tail switch, and double clicking it just turns it on and off really quickly, because as I said earlier, in moonlight mode, this tail switch, it only functions as a simple on and an off. The tactical, that strobing light, which you use in the self-defense scenario whenever you're trying to disorient someone or to limit their visibility, to make you less of an easy target so that you have a chance to get away, which is always your best defense in a self-defense situation, trying to avoid the conflict, not to be engaging in it. The idea is that if you can disorient, buy yourself a couple of moments to get away, keep the persons from seeing you clearly, it gives you that opportunity to disengage from that dangerous situation. And if you're in that side light mode or that front light mode, strobe warning once again, that double click will get you there. And all of those functions I just went through. The camp function, this light that I'm replacing, the Baton 4, doesn't have any camp settings, doesn't have the outdoor settings, doesn't have any emergency settings, and it doesn't have any tactical capability. Whereas this, not only does this flashlight meet my EDC needs, it has all of those other degrees of functionality, which is the reason why I'm going to be replacing my existing Olight Baton. Now, my review and my comments have been positive up to this point. I am going to be talking about a few cons, and one of the few cons I'm going to be mentioning is the clip. It is a non-adjustable clip, which in and of itself isn't necessarily that big of a deal, but the reason I'm mentioning it is because it is non-adjustable. The only way that this will orient in your pocket is whenever the lens of the camera is pointing up and outside of the protection of your pocket. So it makes it vulnerable. If you happen to, go through a doorway, quite frequently my pockets, I'm a tall enough person to where if I'm going through a doorway, sometimes my pockets will get caught on the door handle. And if this was hanging out of my pocket, and depending upon the type of door handle that would get caught up in my pocket, it could potentially scratch or damage the lens. I would have much preferred to have seen a pocket clip that was adjustable or had some mechanism where you could pop it out and turn it 180 degrees. So I'm not entirely happy with the pocket clip. I love, it's a large sturdy pocket clip. Again, it'll fit on a belt, it'll go over a pocket, it'll go on a backpack strap, you can attach it to the MOLLE webbing on a pouch. So I love that it has all of that functionality, but I just wish that it had an adjustable pocket clip, especially since I don't like the idea of the lens being outside of the pocket, unprotected and exposed all the time if you're actually carrying it. Now, for my purposes, that doesn't make that much of a difference because this is going to be a pouch light rather than a pocket light. But I still might carry this on occasion, and there's a lot of people that do like to actually have the flashlight in their pocket on them whenever they are out and about. Another negative thing that I will mention here is the lanyard only has this one attachment point on the pocket clip, and intuitively you would want to hang it from that lowest point there. But given the way this orients in your pocket, then that would mean that the lanyard would sort of disappear on the inside of your pocket, and so you have to have the lanyard oriented toward the top of the hoop here, so that whenever you're carrying it in your pocket for easy extraction, you can grab the lanyard and pull it out, or you could just go without the lanyard at all and just grab the tip of the flashlight itself for extraction purposes, which is what I did during my testing of the flashlight. But again, some people prefer the use of a lanyard, and I would have just liked a better or a different form of attachment point for the lanyard other than using the pocket clip there. And one other thing I will mention is that the detent system that they're using here, I forgot to mention the charging port. The charging port, if you put it all the way forward in moonlight mode, that's what exposes the port for charging capacity. But the reason I was talking about that was because of the order of the light. So at the very bottom, you have the lock, and then you scroll up, it goes the side light, up once again the front light, all the way up, you are in moonlight mode. I think that they made a mistake in terms of the ordering of that. It should have been the opposite order. You should have been from fully locked out, which is nothing, up one, intuitively should be the lowest setting. That should be the moonlight setting. And then up again should have been the forward setting, and then all the way up should have been the side light. And here's why I say that. Because of that aforementioned tactical capacity of this, the strobe. The strobe only works in those middle two settings. It will not work at the bottom setting. It will not work all the way at the top. All the way at the top, if you're hitting that light, it's just a simple on-off. If you were ever actually so unfortunate as to be in a situation where you needed to use that strobe for the purpose of self-defense, it's unlikely that you would have the dexterity in that moment to properly index to make sure that it's in one of those two middle positions. Whenever adrenaline's in your system, you're going to be grabbing it and you're just going to be throwing it all the way forward. And then you could double click strobe warning. Oh, if they actually had it set up that way, you could throw it all the way forward and then you could double click, here's the strobe warning. Then you would have access to that strobing mechanism. But such as it is, you have to make sure that you're in one of those middle positions before strobe warning, before you actually have access to that tactical capacity of it. Now, I just think that was just a bad decision on their behalf. But I'm really being nitpicky there. And the reason that I have to nitpick is because I just think this is a great light. I like that it's square. I like the size of it. It is really only about the size of, let's see, I don't have, I'll use this. You can see how it compares to a Wenger Champ. So this is about 4.5 ounces, 4.2 ounces, somewhere thereabouts. So this is a little bit heavy for the type of light that I would typically use in my pocket, but for a pouch flashlight, it is very compact for a pouch flashlight. It has all of that capability. It has that up to 200-meter throw, which effectively, in my testing, I found that had an effective throw of about 80 yards, not quite the 200-meter. I mean, you could definitely see it extend that far, but in terms of effective illumination, the effective illumination in my testing was going out to about 75, 80 yards, which is a heck of a throw for a flashlight of this size. I like that it has all of those camping and outdoors functions. I like the side light, that lantern capacity, that infinitely adjustable from low to high. I like the RGB. I like the flashing beacon setting. I like the strobe capacity for the tactical setting. I like that it has both a main switch and the tactical switch. And while I'm unhappy with the implementation of the pocket clip, it certainly is sturdy, and I like the way that it has that positive retention, and you wouldn't have to worry about it, accidentally falling out of what you're attaching it to. And there are several accessories available through the Wuben site. They have these an orange and a red little overlay that you can use to cover this lens. And they also have a bicycle mount. So there was only one picture of the bicycle mount, so it wasn't entirely clear to me as to exactly how you would mount it. It showed it oriented this way, and it showed the mount attaching to the bottom, but the only real attachment point would be the clip itself. And based on the one, I think there were two pictures actually, but neither one of those pictures on their website indicated exactly how it would fit into the bracket, because the slot on the bracket itself was far too narrow for this rather large bump of the pocket clip to attach to. So I'm not exactly sure how that would attach. And given that it costs $17, I would be wary about paying $17 for an attachment point if I were unsure as to exactly how it attached. And while I'm talking about this pocket clip one more time, I'll mention something else. And this isn't necessarily a con, but it is something I wish they would have added. It's a feature that I wish they would have added to it. They have the tail-mounted magnet on this. I really would have appreciated if they would have had a side-mounted magnet, because if it had a side, and they could have embedded a magnet right there in that bend of the pocket clip. If they would have had that, then you would have that additional functionality of the side light, which is much more diffuse and spreads out over a larger area than the front light does. Even though the front light, in theory, does have both the spot and the flood beam, the side LEDs there are much more diffuse and spread out over a wider area. So if you're in the capacity of having to put this against something metal, your only functionality right now would be to have the tail-mounted end of it and using it for that direction. And I just think having that other magnet on there would have increased the utility of the flashlight. But again, that's just sort of nitpicking. For the cost of this, for the features of this, I think this is an outstanding product. And as I mentioned, this I did not pay for this myself. Wuben sent this to me for the purpose of reviewing. I will include the affiliate link in the description to this. That doesn't cost you anything extra, and it will help out the page. And as I mentioned earlier, right now the price on Wuben's site is exactly the same as the price on Amazon. This is listed at $38.99. Which unfortunately on Wuben's site is 1 cent lower than the free shipping threshold. So if this product appeals to you, if you're in the market for a flashlight anyway, and if you're interested in a flashlight at that price point, this has a lot of features for that price point. And even though it would help me out and the channel out if you went through the affiliate link, you're not going to get free shipping unless you buy something else from Wuben. So if you're an Amazon Prime member and if you already have free shipping, just go ahead and click through the Amazon. We'll go to Amazon. I will attach a link to the Amazon page, but I'm not affiliated with Amazon, so that's not going to do anything for me. But it could potentially be doing something for you, because you would get the free shipping that way if you are a Prime member. So I think I've touched upon everything that I needed to talk about. I talked about the EDC aspects of that. I talked about the camping and outdoors application. I talked about the tactical and emergency functionality of that. I mentioned some of the cons, the non-adjustable pocket clip. You're sort of fixed with that one carry direction with the lens of the flashlight pointing up. I would have preferred to have seen them add a magnet on the side so you had increased utility in terms of how to attach it to a metallic surface. And I wish they would have reversed the order of the progression on the indexing here. But apart from those minor points, I am very happy with this flashlight, and I am going to be replacing it, using this to replace the baton, the Olight Baton 4. And I'm just going ahead and do that right now. So I'll open my pouch back up, wrap this around. This, well, actually, I'm not going to wrap that around because I need that to go over there. And even though I'm losing the wireless charging, the external charging capacity associated with that, in my case, it's not that big of a deal because I already have an external wiring pack that I can stick in this pouch. Now, that one is about 10, I think this is, yeah, that's a 10,000 milliamp hour, and it's much larger than it needs to be. That's just a cheap one that I purchased at Harbor Freight several years ago. It has served me well, but I probably am going to go ahead and buy a smaller 10,000 milliamp hour. They're on sale right now on Amazon for $26. But even in its present case, with that large 10,000 milliamp hour external battery pack, it still fits in the pouch that I use to put in my bag that I take to work with me every day. So I am glad to have that new flashlight. I like having the increased functionality, the increased brightness of it, and I look forward to getting to know that flashlight over the next several years. So with all those things being said, I'm going to go ahead and let you go. I'm going to thank you for watching, and I hope to see you in the next video.